Today is June 4th, 2008. I am Eric Michnick, and it is a pleasure to conduct this interview for the Dakota Memories Oral History Project outside of Lair, North Dakota. Can you please state your full name?
Emil Roesler.
And when and where were you born?
I was born right in this very place where we're sitting right now in 1923.
Have you ever heard an interesting story about your birth?
Yes, I did. They tell me they were harvesting west of here, and Dad unhitched one of the horses from the heather. You know, there had 6 horses on there, and he rode home. He got in a car and drove up to Herbaley's and got the midwife. That was John Herbaley's mother, and it was a hot day, they tell me. I think that's about it. They tell me all the time, yeah, that was a hot day. So it was in August, 1st of August. So.
You said there was a midwife there. Did a doctor come out, or was it
No,
just a midwife?
No, them days, no, there's just a midwife. Sometimes just the neighbors delivered the babies too, yeah.
Okay. Could you share some of your earliest memories with us?
As a little kid?
Yeah, like what's some of the first things you remember?
Well, let's see. The one I remember was when my sister was born. I think I said that before, didn't I? Did I say that? Mm-hmm. I did? Maybe I shouldn't repeat it.
Go ahead.
Well, I came down, I had to sleep upstairs. And I came down here in this very room, and there was a lady here in a wash tub. She was washing some clothes or something. Anyway, and she asked me if I could dress myself. And that all seemed strange to me, so I sat a while and turned around and went back upstairs again, sleep. And then later on, of course, I found out that I had a little sister. That's what happened. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't even know my mother was pregnant. I guess when you're that little, your eyesight isn't the best or something. Yeah, I remember that real well. I don't know of any other things that are of interest. Not really. Boy, I don't even remember if she did a lot of crying or not. She lives up in the street here now, so she's still alive anyway after all that. So, no, well, there was what? That was the last of the family. So that means there was 9 of us. But I think the older 2, like Albert and Emma, they were the oldest. I think they had left soon after that. So don't remember too much about that.
Okay. Well, speaking of family, let's talk a little bit about that. Could you tell me about your grandparents?
Well, you know, I don't know much about my grandparents. I know my grandfather, they said he had cancer. And as a kid, we were over there once. They lived south of here on the farm. And I remember him getting out of bed and he was throwing up. And as a kid, you know, you don't like to see that anyway. I went out. But he died soon after that. And then Grandma, she lived here with us for a while, not very long. And I remember the funeral. That's about all I remember. I know they had these long dresses, you know, all the time. And then they wore bloomers. I got to tell you something about these bloomers. I never knew anything till I went in the wash line, you know. Later on they told me their bloomers were split. They said that was when they'd work out in the fields, in the orchards. They didn't have to go to the bathroom. They went to the bathroom standing up, the women. How about that? So when they were going through the garden here one time, and I was behind her. You know, years ago they'd do that. They'd come in, and they always had to show what's going on in the garden, how nice this is and that. I was behind her. All of a sudden, she did the same thing. She went to the bathroom. She grabbed the bush and lifted her leg, and I was really surprised what was going on. I remember that to this day. That's the first time I ever saw something like that. Maybe I shouldn't have mentioned it here. Well, that was a Russian way, I guess, working with the men.
What were your grandparents' names?
Oh, William? No, no. See, my grandma, I don't even remember her first name. I don't remember her first name. We weren't allowed to call them by the first name. That's true. You weren't. Yeah.
What were you supposed to call them instead?
Oh, you always called them Grandpa or something like that. You know, you didn't Grandma. Yeah, didn't.
Okay. Did they come over from Russia?
Yeah. They came over from Russia.
Did you ever hear any stories about their journey from Russia, from them or your parents?
Well, they tell us like how their farming differed so from ours, which I can see why it would. But then they came over here and no trees, no nothing. It was a barren place. I think a lot of them wished they wouldn't have come at the time. And but no, I don't remember any real. Oh yeah, they said too at times. Toward last, some Russians must have had criminals or something. They'd come into their place. They'd live in a town, and they'd steal their horses or things like that. That's why I think a lot of them start to leave when that happened. They'd tell that stuff. Or being chased by, what, coyotes or something. I don't know if that was true or not. Had stories like that.
Okay. Do you remember any of the differences in farming that they used to talk about?
Well, my mother, they had an orchard, so she was used to working in an orchard. But Dad, I don't know. He never said anything over there. He came over here with his two brothers and an uncle. And then landed in Eureka, South Dakota. Worked there for 2 years, $150 a year. And he had, a horse, and maybe there was 2 horses and a cow when he came up here. That was it. Went to work.
Okay. Where did your grandparents live when you were growing up?
Where did they live? Let's see, they lived northwest of here for a while, and then later south, just straight south, about a mile and a half south of here. Mm-hmm.
You mentioned visiting them every now and then. How often did you visit?
Oh, I think when they visited, I think I stayed home most of the time, I believe. I don't think I was there very often.
Okay. How many children did they have?
Boy, let's see. 1, 2, 3 boys and 2 girls, I believe.
Okay. Is there anything else that you'd like to add about your grandparents?
No. I know this, they didn't really, it's so different from today. I mean, they didn't really talk to you or go out of their way to help you out in any way. I can't remember anything that really was interesting to me at the time.
Okay. Could you tell us a little bit about your aunts and uncles?
My aunts and my uncles. Let's see. I had 2 uncles that I remember. They were neighbors here. My dad didn't get along too well with one of them, I remember. And let's see, one of them didn't have a family, just the 2 of them. The others, they had families. But we went to school with one of them, with their kids, as William Conowisher, yeah, went to school with the kids.
Okay. How often did they visit you, or did you visit them when you were growing up?
Oh, we visited quite often, really, you know. Summertime you play ball, wintertime you played cards when your parents didn't see it.
What type of card games did you play?
They played whist, and then there was pitch, and what was the other one? Oh, there must have been something like pig, and then, I don't know what they did. Pig, you know, I don't know, and there was it, you touched your nose, and everybody would hit his nose, you know. What a game, huh? Maybe, what's that, 500 game? Solitary, I guess we played too, you know.
Okay. Did you have a favorite aunt or uncle?
No, I don't think so. Weren't very close.
You mentioned going to school with some of your cousins. Could you tell me a little bit about your cousins?
Yeah, let's see. One was, there were none in my grade. Two of them were ahead of me, and one was behind me. Let's see. The boy was pretty sharp in mathematics, and yeah, he used to help me out. And the girls, well, I never was close to girls. You know, boys years ago, I stayed away from the girls. So I don't remember too much about the girls. I know they came with horses. They had an enclosed sled. They'd drive across the lake to school. And then when we'd get dressed and school went out, they were always in a hurry and would hitch up the team. So I had to be the first out, you know. I can tell you about, can I tell you about our teachers? Or is that coming up later?
We'll do that when we talk about school.
Okay.
Going back to your cousins then, did you have a favorite cousin?
Yeah, I think Otto was my favorite, yeah. He's still living in Jamestown.
What types of things would you two do together?
Oh, we went hunting together, and he played the guitar, and I tried to play the guitar, and what else? I played cards, things like that. I know in school we used to choose up sides and build a fort. We each would build a fort. The two of us and two other guys would build a fort. Have snowball fights and things like that.
What types of songs would you play on the guitar?
Oh boy, let's see. I can't even remember what songs there were. I'm sure there was something that George German or somebody sang in Yankton, WNEX. Well, I can't think of any right offhand.
Okay.
Maybe it ain't gonna rain no more. No, I don't know. That ain't gonna rain no more. That was when they first got a radio. One guy says to the other, "Switch on. It ain't gonna rain no more." You know, on the radio. Well, you couldn't do that. More like a record machine, you could do that. Yeah, switch on. Ain't gonna rain no more.
Did you ever have any large family gatherings with your extended family?
No, I don't think so. They'd get together maybe like on the 4th of July or so in town. Yeah. No. And things like Valentine's parties or so. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is there anything else that you'd like to share about your extended family members?
One of my uncles passed away. The undertaker was from Cullen, Anderson. I think he had a store over there. And they did this embalming right out on the farm. And then he, well, there's blood, you know, that they drain or something. And he says, when he left, you can take that pail and dump it down the lake or someplace, he said. I remember that. I thought that was unusual. That was a first for me.
Do you remember anything else about his funeral?
Let's see, I think he died in 1930. I was 8 years old. I should remember some. No, I don't remember anything else. I know he had a Model A Ford, 1929. No, no.
Okay. Let's switch over to your parents then. Could you tell me a little bit about your father?
Well, let's see. He was a strict man. We had to obey, all right, or else you got a spanking for sure. I think they were all that way years ago, the parents. You lived a little bit in fear all the time, afraid you'd do something that they didn't approve of, and you'd get a spanking, of course. They always were free with that spanking business. But let's see. He wasn't good at mechanical things. He didn't know nothing about that. Horses, that was different. But anything that needed work later on, like on a tractor, so I had no idea what you'd do.
What were some of the things that you would get spanked for?
Oh, well, let's see. Like I said once before, that calf I was supposed to get that didn't get, I got spanked for that. Or if you'd, sometimes we picked on our little sister and we'd get a spanking. Doing anything. I remember I broke we had a stationary engine that they used to grind feed, and for some reason or other I broke the oiling. There was an oil char on top. You flipped it, there would oil drop as it was running. I broke that. Hey, boy, I don't know why I broke that darn thing. I think I hit it with a hammer for something. I had it coming that time, I'll say that. Yeah, I remember getting a spanking for that.
Do you know when and where your father was born?
When my dad was born? Odessa? In Russia? What year, though? Boy. 18 what? Well, let's see. The first child was born in 1909. Well, I'm not sure when he was born. 18 something, all right.
All right. How did your father express his emotions, such as like, fear or love or anger?
Well, angry, yeah. That I remember. When his eyes got awful sharp, you could tell. Now it's coming. And he'd bite his teeth, and I always knew when he was angry.
Could you describe your relationship with your father for us?
Well, years ago, I don't think we weren't close. None of the kids were close to Dad. But I think we got along later on better than we did earlier in life. I think as, I don't know, the older ones left and the younger ones, you got to where you could get by with a few things already. And so for some reason or other, maybe it's that way today yet too, that the younger kids have more freedom than the older ones. You know, that's.
How did your father cope during the hard times?
Oh yeah, that was a worried time. You could tell. Yes, they were downhearted, all right. There was nothing they could do really. I mean, there was no money. times were really rough. And then they had to make, like they couldn't make their taxes, so the county agreed to defer their taxes, you know, for, oh, that worried them. And I remember the bank closing. He wrote a check to pay the taxes, and then the bank closed, and that check was no good then. Yeah, that was, the 30s, early 30s were bad. Yeah, and then of course, like, we had a cut back too as kids. You weren't allowed to do much of anything or go any place. So.
When did your father die?
In what, 57, I think it was. He was 76 years old. He died suddenly at home. When they lived in Lair, they moved to Lair.
Okay. Could you tell us about your mother?
Yeah, she didn't spank us. I remember that very well. She was easier to get along with. But she was a hard-working woman. She was always outside helping.
When and where was she born?
She was born, I think she was only, what? Was she 4 years younger than Dad, I think? She was also born in Russia. Mm-hmm.
How did she express her emotions?
Oh, I don't know. I know she was strict with the girls. She didn't want the girls to go out, and the boys, it wasn't that bad. She didn't seem to mind much. I guess she didn't want them to get into trouble, I guess, more or less. No, she was easier to get along with. Oh, she had her stubborn times too, I guess, but
Could you describe your relationship with your mother?
well, I mean, there was no kissing or hugging as far as that goes. They didn't do that in them days. But otherwise, we got along good, I'll say that. She used to go out and help us, and even when we were hauling hay or loading hay, she used to go along and help. Of course, she understood English, but she didn't talk English, so she'd say some words English, and of course we'd make fun of it, and you don't, so you avoid talking English then.
How did she cope during the hard times?
Oh, well, yeah, that was tough. That was tough for everybody, the whole family. Yeah. I really don't know. You know, they made a lot of the clothes years ago. Made their own clothes, and then there was a lot of hand-me-downs because bigger family. And kids would wear what the other kid wore the year or two before. Mm-hmm.
And when did she die?
She died when she was 84 years old. In, well, I know what year was that? 80. She was a widow for 9 years. 80, maybe, was it 83? Was it that? No, I'm not sure now when she died. No, I don't remember. I'd have to look that up. I'm bad when it comes to figures.
Maybe 1966?
It might be. Now let's see. Emma died in 63. 60, 64, 5, 6. Yeah, it might be right. It could be something like.
Okay. And what did she die of?
Oh, they always said, you know, them days they always said cancer or something. I really don't know what they did put down for her death. I know she was getting forgetful toward last.
Okay. How many, or who was the more strict parent?
Oh, you mean dad or mother? Oh, dad, yeah.
You've mentioned you got the strap and spanking sometimes. Did they have any other ways to discipline you?
Well, like not being able to do something you wanted, huh? Oh yeah, told you couldn't go there or here. Yeah, that they did. Of course, we didn't go away that much, so it didn't make that much difference, I guess.
Okay. Who influenced your life more?
My dad or my mother? No, I think maybe my brothers more than my dad or mother.
Did you ever hear any stories of how your parents met?
No, I didn't see. Well, they must have been neighbors. That's about all I know. I don't know how they met.
And what did they do for their pastimes when they weren't working?
Boy, I think they, like the women were either sewing something or something. They were always doing something, even when they had company. They were doing something, and well, I don't know how they could visit that way. And the men, oh, they just talked, complained, I guess, like we do nowadays.
Turn now to your brothers and sisters. Could you tell me the birth order of all your brothers and sisters, including you?
When they were born, you mean?
Or even just their names and who
Oh,
was first,
oh.
who was second?
Like Albert was the oldest, and he was born in 1908, I think, yep. And then Emma was the sister, she was next. She was born a year later. And then there was William, or Bill. And he was born about 2 years after that, after Emma. And then there was Ted. He was also about 2 years younger than Bill. Then there was Martha. There was a 5-year difference there. I don't know what happened. Usually there was one every 2 years, but then there was 5 years. And then after Martha was Marie. And then after Marie came Emil. Now we're getting close to the end. Then, of course, then 2 years later was Larry. At that time they called him Lawrence. And last but not least was Esther. She was born 1928. And that took care of the kids. Albert was the mechanic. He was mechanically minded, yeah. had his own shop later on. And Bill joined the, well, Emma died when she was 52. She never married. She worked in the Capitol building up in Bismarck. I don't even know what it was. And Bill, he joined the service in the 30s. He stayed in the service. And Ted, he went out west. He got a job with Pendleton Mills later on, there until he retired. He made blankets, like nice blanket, Pendleton Mills or Pendleton Woolen Mills, that's what it was. Martha, she got married and went out west too. Marie got married, she lives in Napoleon. And Larry, he was in the service too. He was in the service 22 years, and then he was in civil service for 16 years. Man. Yeah, he lives in Fort Walton Beach, Florida. And Esther, she lives up here in Streeter. She's a widow too. I think the living girls are all widows.
What were they like when they were growing up?
Oh, we all got along good. I'll say that. Yeah. Oh, yeah. But as what we really did for pastime or so, I don't even remember. We played ball too. I know they came out and played ball with us.
And were they all born here?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
In this house?
Yeah. Yeah.
When they all were born with midwives then too?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did you ever hear any interesting stories about their births?
No, yes, I do. That one that I remember is the one I saw myself. The others I don't know. I know they said when Larry was born, they didn't expect him to live. He was sick a lot. And then they had these women here. Well, it was an aunt. They didn't have no children, but she had all kinds of advice to give these kids when they were sick. So, but he made it.
Was there any competition in your family between the siblings?
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Like Albert the oldest, yeah, he was favored. Whenever they went someplace like on business, he'd be the guy to go along.
Who was in charge when they left?
Who was in charge when they left? I don't know if one really was in charge no more after that. We were all on our own, pretty much.
Okay. What type of mischief did you guys get into together?
What type of mischief? Oh, let's see. The older Bill and Ted, they were, at that time they were bootlegging whiskey through here. And I know they sold some here. We found a barrel buried in the barn, you know, where they kept it in. And a palm from Cullum would deliver it. I still remember that. And then they'd sell it here. At that time, it was illegal to sell booze. So, breaking the law.
Did they ever get caught selling?
No. But the guy that delivered the booze got, the sheriff chased him once from Napoleon, and they had some of these roofing nails that they throw out, you know, to get a flat. He got one on his own tire when he did, and he stopped at one of the neighbors, you know. He dumped the booze in the ditch and drove in there to fix the tire. By the time the sheriff got there, of course, next day he came back over here and picked up his booze again. Well, that was a big business. Even in Lair, there was a guy that would bring wine in here and stuff from California, and they didn't bother him. I guess they bought their right away or something.
Which brother or sister were you closest to?
Oh, I think I'd be my younger brother. I was the closest to Larry.
Could you describe your relationship with him?
Well, we'd leave, we'd even go to dances together. Took out girls together, how about that? And things like that, yeah.
How often would you get to go to dances?
Oh, usually just in the winter time.
And where would you take girls on dates?
Well, them days you always went to a movie. That's about the only thing you could do, you know. So the movies was either Wishick or Cullum, the two places.
And what type of movies would you go see?
Oh, them was always Westerners at them days, yes. The China Ottery and Roy Rogers and things like that.
Okay. What was it like when your older brothers and sisters left home?
Well, all of a sudden there seemed to be a lot of room, I'll say that, yes. We had got our own bedroom finally and things like that. It got quieter.
Did you have more chores to do then?
Well, things seemed to improve that way too. The choring, they got a little easier. And I think we did start operating bigger, that's true. But you got tractors, you went from tractors to horses, from horses to tractors rather, and yeah.
Okay. Did any of your siblings have nicknames?
No, I don't think so. No, that's fine. They were all in Lair. Lair has, everybody has a nickname in Lair. But here, no, I don't think that.
All right. Is there anything else that you'd like to add about your brothers or sisters?
Let's see. The oldest three have passed away, so there's just me and the one in Florida, Larry. And the girls, of course, there's still 3 girls living. One of them has passed away. So they're all widows except Larry. Of course, he can't be a widow, can he? Man can't be a widow, right?
All right, let's switch over to grade school now.
Okay.
What did you want to be when you grew up, when you were a child?
Boy, I don't know if I had anything in mind, really. Our teachers didn't encourage you either. I remember we had one teacher, Ida Mae Holland, she always wore boots. Always wore boots. I don't know, it was a soft leather boot. I could never figure that out. And most of our teachers came from down the Fargo way. They'd come up here, they'd have a taxi, bring them up, like maybe 3 of them, they'd teach around here, have a taxi, bring them up here, and they'd stay until spring. We only had 7 months of school. In them days on the country, they had 9 months in town, so we'd go out in March usually. So.
How many teachers did you have throughout grade school?
Let's see, I started with Rose Thompson, Mrs. Ed Mack, and then I had Ida Mae Holland, Christine Gehring, Mrs. Koenig, Cordelia Bliley, Willie Helmer. I think that's it. Willie Helmer was the last one, I believe. Which one was the best? Well, let's see. Maybe my first grade teacher, that was Mrs. Mack. She's dead, so I can say that now. course, Mrs. Koenig, Bliley, was a good teacher too. Yeah.
What did you like about those teachers?
Let's see, when you're young like that, what do you like about them? I get. Mrs. Koenig was about the strictest, I'll say that. When we started school, she had the whole blackboard full of things that we can't do. That was unusual. Oh, when we came in. Then they said we complained when we got home. Oh man, she's too strict and this and that. But we got used to it after a while. Yeah.
Do you remember some of the things that she wrote on the board that you couldn't do?
Boy, I don't. No, I can't remember the things. I know there was a lot of things on there. That's the first time that ever happened in our school that a teacher would do that. I think that's why. I know we had a little dog, and he went along to school with us, walking in the fall. And he went in the school. We opened up and he went in. She opens the door. Dogs are not allowed in here, she says. Which was right, of course.
Were you allowed to speak German at school?
No, we weren't supposed to speak German. Well, I can see why too. Yeah, they didn't understand German, the teachers. Even out in the playground, we weren't supposed to talk German. I don't think we did much either. I don't think so.
What were some of the penalties for speaking German?
Oh, you had to stay in usually during recess, you'd have to stay in like maybe half of the recess or so. They weren't too severe. They couldn't hardly keep you after school because of, some of the kids would drive home quite a ways to go, so they didn't keep you after school. It was always during recess or noon hour or something like that.
What types of games and activities did you do during recess?
Oh boy, there was prisoner's base, and then we played softball, anti-over, what's that, pum-pum-pall-away. I forget how that worked again, but that was a game. And what else? Oh yeah, when there was snow, fox and goose, we played. You ever play fox and goose? You don't know what it is. You make a big circle in the snow, somebody is in the middle, and then you have these paths going to each one. No, I forget now, what do? I guess you try and tag somebody, but I forget how that works. I don't remember how that's played anymore. It was fun anyway. When you're kids, you don't care much. It's just so you have something to do, I think.
How far away was school?
Mile and a half. And we went there with, like in the summertime we'd walk, or not summer, spring and fall, we'd walk. But then when it got colder, we'd go with a horse and buggy and a horse and sled, whatever it was,
Could you describe what your school was like, the building and the surrounding buildings?
Oh yeah, let's see. You had big windows on the east side. Came in from the south side, a big porch going across. The girls had a cloakroom and we had a cloakroom. The boys had a cloakroom. And from there you went into the school then, hung your clothes out. Trouble is that when you had a wind, that was cold. Them schoolhouses weren't insulated, and you had a stove in one corner, and how that was. Like you'd get in there on a Monday morning, in wintertime, there was no heat during the weekend, so it'd be cold all Monday. Some of the kids were allowed to sit around the stove, and some of them would put something hot to eat or drink on the stove on top, yeah.
Was it a one-room schoolhouse?
One-room schoolhouse, yeah. We had a big metal or a round metal lead ball with a globe. You could leave the globe down. I got that. One of the girls was playing and she hit me under the nose with that ball one time. Wow, did I have a sore nose for a long time. That is a steel ball. I don't know what happened. Maybe I was in the wrong place at the wrong time or something.
How many kids were usually in your classroom?
Oh, yeah, 23 was about the top kids. But in each class, there are, I don't know, more like maybe 3 in a class. 3, 4, not too many.
Were these kids mostly German, or they mixed nationality?
No, they were all German here, yeah.
You showed us a lunch pail in your barn earlier. What did you take your lunch into school, and what type of lunch would you take to school?
They always had sandwiches, you know, a sandwich and an apple. And then you had insulated 2-quart container in your, and I don't know, that was, we didn't drink coffee, but Postum we had once in a while, remember, you know. Lunch wasn't the best. It was always cold lunch.
What was the attendance like at your school?
Oh, the attendance was good. Oh, yeah. I guess you were glad to leave home and go to school.
What was your favorite subject?
Oh, I think like history and civics. Yeah, I enjoyed that.
Do you have any least favorite subjects?
That I didn't like? I thought geography was hard. You know, years ago we only had geography. You didn't have it all 8 years. And so many kids were flunking. They finally extended it to all 8 years. And that was the thing to do, too. Well, geography I thought was hard. Maybe it still is. I don't know. Is it? Maybe not. You know more. You hear more about geography nowadays than years ago. So.
What were some of the other subjects that you were taught?
That I didn't like?
Just that you were taught in general.
Oh, well, let's see. We had, well, then we called it arithmetic. Now you say math. Yeah, that was, I sort of liked that too, though. And what else? We had hygiene. What do they call that now? Health? Yeah, hygiene. And, oh, there had to be more than that, wasn't there? Math and geography, hygiene. I don't even know if there was anything else. Had to be something. I forgot what it was. Oh, I didn't have anything that I really disliked. But whenever you had a class, of course, and you could speak up a little bit on things. You know, spelling wasn't my best bet, or best subject, I mean. We always had spelling, and then the teacher would read the words up there, and you'd write them down with the way they were supposed to be spelled, and then you'd exchange with some other students to correct your papers. Yeah, always had some wrong. Yeah, always.
Were you a good student?
I think I was average, yeah. I know like when we wrote exams, seems to me though, geography was my poorest. I think I had a 65 in geography, just passing. That was the poorest one.
Did you have very much homework?
Yeah, there was always homework. Oh yeah. Always took some home. Had Martha, one of my sisters, helped me always with my homework.
Did you ever have any school plays or programs?
Oh yeah, Christmas programs. And then we had YMCL. That was once a month at the end, and that's when we'd recite the Pledge of Allegiance and things like that, you know. And then, I don't know, whenever there was we had some officers. I know, I don't think I ever was an officer though. And there was always some project that they were trying to do. I don't think we ever amounted to anything really. It's always the last quarter on Friday that we do those things once a month. Yeah.
How important was education to your family?
Well, at first I don't think it was. I think later on they saw the need for it, yes. You know, a lot of them around here, they'd say, well, on the farm, what do you want to go to school for if you're going to farm, you know? That was wrong. Yep.
Were you encouraged or discouraged from going to high school?
No. You know, I took a correspondence course, and you know how that is when you do that at home. That's something like homeschooling. I think it's not like going to school, and you sort of put things off. And I was sorry I did that. I didn't continue. My sister did. She went to high school. Well, everybody after that went to high school.
Okay. You mentioned Valentine's Day before. Did you celebrate Halloween or Valentine's Day?
Yes, we celebrated Valentine's Day. We always had hot cocoa and marshmallows, you know. And then we'd play games after that. That's when Mrs. Johnson would come over. I told them before, she'd always bring a coffee pot along. She was a Norwegian, and a lot of the teachers were Norwegian, so she'd have them over there. And then we'd have homemade ice cream. I mentioned this before. She'd use her finger, you know, on her spoon to get in your plate, and we kids didn't like that. She says, that's nothing wrong. That's not poison. She'd lick it off and go right to work again. This is a good old lady, though. Yeah.
And what were your Halloween parties like?
Boy, Halloween, I know we had, I don't even remember what we did, though. We always played some games. I remember there was a game you spun the disc. You'd spin it, and they were sitting around, and then you'd call somebody's name, and you had to go up there and catch it before it quit rotating, you know. And some guys got smart. They'd spin it, and they'd wait and wait and wait, you know, until it started to wobble. And then they'd call a name. You couldn't get up there in time.
Is there anything else that you'd like to add about going to school or your education?
Well, I still remember they'd always, when school went out, the girls ran out in a hurry to hitch the teams. And one time we were driving the school, there was a gate, and one went north and one went south. Well, our team went south, and this girl, Leah Essick, she rode north on a horse. And the tongue got right in the middle of this horse and pushed this horse around. Gosh, she could have got hurt that time. Luck had it, the horse got away in front. I'll never forget that. That was bad.
Anything else you'd like to add?
Let's see. Oh yeah, they used to, when there was snow, they used to go on the barn. The barn had a sort of an oval roof. It was not a steep roof. Then we'd run and jump off in the snow. One of the girls jumped off and she hurt her ankle. And of course she wouldn't, in them days you didn't tell how it happened, you know. And finally it came out anyway, and she got a good spanking for that. She limped for a long time. She should have went to a doctor, but them days you didn't go. Yeah, she reminded me of that not so long ago here, that she got hurt that time. That was kind of dumb. You'd take a run off that barn, jump in the snowbank. Well, she went all the way through. You know, the snowbank hit the frozen ground. Shouldn't have had a barn. So we kept our horses.
Any other stories?
No, I can't think of anything right offhand. We had, when Willie Helmer was our teacher, he was quite athletic, and he would play with us at the noon hour or so, and then he'd have one of us stand on the back of the buggy. That's about this high, and you stand on, hold your cap out, and he'd come running, and he'd jump and kick that cap. He was athletic. Yeah, he was. He was good. He was in some of the state competition they had, you know. I remember that. Imagine kicking a cap off somebody's hand. Jumping and then kicking. Okay, the dirty 30s, yes. I wasn't too old in them days, but I remember them well. That's when some of the kids were going or joining the CCs at that time. I think I was a little too young because we had some of the neighbors went, which was a great experience, they tell me. Got around, some of them really got around, all over the nation, really. But, you know, there were, the 34 and 1936 were the 2 years that we had just about no rain here, and they made hay with thistles. Thistles would grow, and they were ugly to work with, though, thistles. And then you fed your cattle, and they got diarrhea. Gee whiz. I think you should have mixed the thistles with something else. Them days they didn't do that. But one of the reasons that we did have the dust storms, they had a farm program which you were only allowed to seed so many, you had so many acres and certain percentage of those acres you could seed, and the other had a fallow, and they had to keep it black. And we got a lot of storm and dry weather, and the ground shifted. Oh, the dust storms left and right. And our lakes were dry, so we had alkali up here. Later on, when the storm quit, we'd use a Fresno to move some of the ground away from around the buildings. It blew right up around the buildings. I'll never forget that mess. And of course, being there was no money, you know, we didn't get, like kids in them days didn't get an allowance. So you trapped. And in the summertime you caught gophers and sold the gopher tails. That's how you made a little money. But once in the later 30s, when things start improving, like you'd get 25 cents for a rabbit, and you could shoot lots of rabbits. There were rabbits galore. Oh man, I don't think you could have raised trees in them days. The rabbits would have chewed them off. They had that many rabbits. You know. Sometimes it looked like the whole field was moving when you'd drive. So we'd shoot rabbits and sell them. We'd load the whole trunk full in a car and take them in and load them. And yeah, that was money and rabbits. But a lot of guys would do it illegally too. You didn't want them on your land then. You wanted those rabbits, you know, they'd come over on your land, shoot the rabbits. But as for spending money, if you did spend a quarter someplace, it was missing somewhere else. So the parents had a rough time. I felt sorry for them. So if you ever lived through the 30s, that's something you don't forget. And I think that's why you became money conscious more so than otherwise, because you just didn't have no money. There was none. So don't ever wish for them to come back. I don't think they will, really.
Did you ever experience any dust storms?
Oh yes, oh yeah, a lot of it. Have dust would come in through the windows. There'd always be dust. The women would always complain. Oh, you can dust every day. Yes, we had dust storms so you couldn't see. That's right. And you know, them days when you did have snow, the snow was always real dirty because of, well, too much fallow. You don't see that anymore, not around here. It's clean white snow. Looks nice in the wintertime now.
Did your mom try to put any sheets or anything up to block the dust?
Oh yeah, yeah, they did that. Yes, around the windows and so. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That I don't think it did much good though. It still came in. Yeah.
Did you ever experience any problems with grasshoppers?
Oh yes, grasshoppers too. They, you'd look up at the sun and you'd see it looked like it was clouds up there. Yeah, we poisoned some. Had some homemade poison distributors, and that worked. But I guess you killed the birds too then. But yeah, I don't know. Would we ever get a hopper invasion like that again? I hope not. Oh boy, we had hoppers. But that was not only here. That's in other states too. They can do a lot of damage. You know, some guys used to say they chewed the tongues off of the wagons. You know, big wooden. Was exaggerating a little bit.
Do you remember the WPA?
Yes, I remember the WPA. That's when they got together here. They hauled gravel. You know, some guys would slope the side of the ditch with shovels. Imagine doing that. And I think maybe a half a mile a day they could do gravel. And so, yeah, some of the gravel pits are right next to the road. And there was a cave-in once where one of the guys got killed, you know. And then, of course, the inspectors come around and they made sure that you didn't load that way again, like so too close to the sod on top. That's what falls down. So, yeah, I don't remember what they got paid. They got paid so much. I think so much a load or so much a day. That was a lifesaver for a lot of guys. At least they could buy food.
Did your dad work for the WPA?
A little while, yeah, not very long. I guess if you owned land, they didn't really want to let you on. They figured you should be able to make it on your own. See, a lot of the farmers were younger then yet, and yeah.
Okay. How did your parents keep food on the table
During that time? Well, you know, on the farm, you still raised your own cattle, your own hogs, you had your own eggs, you had your own cream and milk, so you actually didn't have to buy much. Flour, we used to take flour to Cullum, take wheat, 36 bushels, you'd get 1,000 pounds of flour. Of course, you had to be able to raise grain, but you didn't have no grain. I think we had some grain left over from other years. They always kept the seed back and things like that. So I don't think we ever bought any grain.
Okay. Is there anything else that you'd like to add about that time?
No, I'm glad they're over with. I'll say that. that was rough. It really was. Of course, later on, it was worse than having ration stamps, I guess. Which you had during the war.
Speaking of the war, how did World War II change your life?
Oh, yeah, you know, like here, so many people left. They, like in town, those that didn't have jobs, they left. They went out west or out east. And then during harvesting, there was no help. You had kids helping you, and women went out shocking and things like that. Yeah, that was a rough one. And then rationing, of course, rationing didn't bother us much on the farm either because you got gas. They gave you gas. And tires, you had to apply. Which, in a way, you weren't allowed a spare tire on your car. It said 4 good tires enough. Yet when they came from another state, they said there they weren't allowed to leave home without spare tires. So it didn't make sense.
What were some of the foodstuffs and other commodities that were rationed?
Oh gosh, they rationed everything. Besides shoes, besides food, there were shoes, I know, tires, gas, and then sugar, flour, And of course, candy weren't, you didn't need ration stamp, but you couldn't buy them. They didn't have them. Let's see, what else did you have to have stamps for? I don't know, I think that was pretty much it. But like I said, it didn't bother the farms as much as the people in town. Of course, the small towns, most of them had their own cow. That's why we kids, my brother and me, we'd buy their calves. You know, they'd raise a cow for a month or so. You could buy the calf, and we'd take it home here and raise the calf. Took it home in the back of a Model A Ford. Tame calves. They were used to people.
Where would you get the rationing books from?
Well, let's see. They issued them from the county. Yeah, the courthouse. Each courthouse, yeah, would issue the ration stamps. Okay. And I know that like gasoline, we wouldn't use all the stamps, and then we'd give them to the filling station guy here in town, and he'd gladly take them, you know, and he could sell more gas that way. You know.
You mentioned that some of your brothers were in the service. Were they drafted for World War II?
No, they volunteered. Well, one volunteered before the war, and the other one after the war was started, yeah. He wasn't in, he was in the Korean War. Well, he was in, but let's see how that worked again. I think he got some of the training during the war, but not, he wasn't in. He shot down 2 Chinese airplanes, I know, pilots, yeah. So that was the Korean War, I think, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you remember where you were when Pearl Harbor was attacked?
Yes, it was on this Sunday afternoon. Teddy Herbley came down here with a car, and we had the radio on, sitting in the car. All of a sudden, here they make the announcement. Pearl Harbor was attacked. That was on a Sunday afternoon, 1941. Boy, then everything changed after that. Man. But that's when farmers started making money after that. Yeah, we had good crops, and the trouble is we had old machinery, and you couldn't buy much machinery.
Was speaking German ever looked down upon during the war?
Yes, yeah, even here, the local, like when there was something going on in school in town, and kids would talk to them, speak English, this is the United States, you know, they tell you, oh yeah. And then there were some people here that were in trouble, like John Bellin in the post office, you know, he was a German, and they checked on him. I don't know, they didn't trust anyone, really. Those Germans. I remember our minister used to say, oh, them Germans, they don't want nothing from us. They don't want nothing from us. He was a German, you know. Yeah. Hitler über alles. Hitler over everything. That's what the Germans used to say. I wonder what would have happened if he'd won. Ooh.
Did you ever have to stop speaking German at your church?
No. I don't think they, like the services, I don't think they ask us that, no. I know after the war was over with, like the folks, they got letters from people in Germany wanting some assistance. They were, I guess things were really rough over there. The money wasn't worth nothing, and I don't know. They didn't know for sure should you send money or shouldn't you. So.
Okay. Is there anything else that you'd like to add about World War II?
I had to get a physical. I remember that. I went down. They took us down on the train. You even got sleepers to go down. When we came back, oh yeah, they pushed it. There wasn't even room to sit on the way back. So I even saw somebody from the service, a neighbor here at Fort Snelling. Here he walks by the window. Sure, we called him in. Yeah, I remember the physical and going back. One of the neighbors was humpbacked here, and I remember how the doctors were feeling around on his back. And he was a 4F2. I don't know what was the matter with him, but I guess he was born that way. Yeah, well.
So did you end up serving?
No. You know, I was living out here alone, and you got different points for so many acres you seeded, so many cattle you had. I was way over. So it was getting to where the farmers were being deferred for the food they raised.
All right. Anything else you'd like to add?
I can't think of anything now. After you're gone, I'll think of all kinds of things.
All right. What was your most stressful childhood experience?
Most stressful? Boy, let me think if I had any real stressful things. I remember having the mumps, and that was when? That was in the summertime. Shoot. No, that was measles, because you weren't allowed to have light. And you had to stay indoors, and you had to stay in so long. And keep the shades drawn. I'll never forget that. That took forever to get over that. Mumps had in the winter. That was measles. Mm-hmm.
Did a doctor come out to see you?
No. You know, in them days, you didn't go to a doctor. They always, these home remedies everyone had. Or they'd talk to some neighbor lady, yeah, that's what you do, you know. Usually some neighbor lady didn't have a family. She knew all the answers that I couldn't figure out.
What were some of the home remedies that your parents had?
Oh, let's see. Well, like for a headache, what was it? You put some vinegar on a rag, you know, and put it around your forehead. I don't know if that worked or not. Yeah, that was one of them. There was something else. So what was it? They gave you something to eat or drink too. I don't remember what that was. As a kid, you don't pay much attention to that. You're glad it's over with. Yeah, I don't remember any other thing.
What was your happiest childhood memory?
Happiest? Oh boy. Maybe when our dad bought us a Model A Ford, I think. Might have been the happiest.
How did that change your life?
Well, we had a car of our own, you know. Gas was cheap in them days. And we'd use it, you know, to go for hunting in the summertime and shoot. That was a great experience. I was driving around the pasture shooting gophers. There were lots of them. You know, good pastime.
What was your most adventurous childhood experience?
Adventurous. Ew. Boy. I can't remember anything. That's adventurous. Don't tell them I didn't have any. Maybe I didn't. I just don't remember anything.
Okay. Are there any other childhood memories or anything else you'd like to add?
I don't. Just mine's at a blank. Wait till you get my age, you'll feel the same way.
All right. Why do you think it's important to tell your life story?
Oh, well, I think a lot of the family members would like your grandchildren or so. Maybe not now, but eventually they'll enjoy this. Yes. They'll find it hard to believe that things have changed that much. I think. I hope.
Are there any other observations or insight you'd like to add?
No. You mean concerning the video? No, you did a good job, I'll say that. No, but.
Well, thank you very much for spending the afternoon with us.
Well, you're welcome. I enjoyed it.